Evelyn Carter stepped into the lavish lobby of the Grand Horizon Hotel, her heart swelling with pride. The dazzling chandeliers sparkled above the polished marble floors, and the soft hum of classical music blended seamlessly with the hushed conversations of well-dressed guests. It was a scene Evelyn had envisioned countless times when this hotel was merely a dream. Now, it stood as a testament to her dedication and hard work over decades. But today, Evelyn wasn't here as the owner. Dressed in well-worn jeans, a plain sweater, and comfortable sneakers, she intended to experience her hotel as a regular guest. No special greetings, no preferential treatment, just an unfiltered look at how her staff interacted with everyday patrons. Her casual appearance was a deliberate choice to test the inclusivity and service she had always envisioned for her establishment. Evelyn walked toward the front desk, her eyes catching details along the way. The crisp uniforms of the staff, the fresh floral arrangements, and the sparkling glass walls overlooking the bustling city below. All were elements she had meticulously designed to create a sense of welcome and luxury. As she approached the receptionist, she offered a polite smile. "Good afternoon. I'd like to book a room for tonight, please," she said, her voice warm and friendly. The young man behind the desk barely glanced up from his computer screen. When he finally did, his expression shifted from indifference to something colder. His eyes scanned her attire, and a faint smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. "We're fully booked," he said flatly, his tone dismissive. Evelyn's gaze flickered to the guest ledger on the desk. From where she stood, she could see several rooms marked as available. Keeping her composure, she decided to test his response. "Are you sure? I'd be happy to pay the full rate," she said. The man sighed, clearly annoyed by her persistence. He looked her up and down again before replying, "This is a luxury establishment, ma'am. Perhaps you'd feel more comfortable at one of the hotels nearby." His condescension was unmistakable, his gaze lingering on her simple clothes. A pang of disappointment hit Evelyn's chest. She had always envisioned the Grand Horizon as a place where every guest felt valued, regardless of their appearance or background. Yet here she was, standing in the very lobby she had built, being judged and turned away. Still, she kept her voice calm. "I see. Thank you," she said quietly before stepping away. Evelyn didn't leave the hotel immediately. Instead, she lingered in the lobby, observing how the staff interacted with other guests. A well-dressed couple approached the same receptionist moments later. Their greeting was met with a warm smile and an offer of complimentary upgrades. Evelyn's heart sank further. She moved to the hotel restaurant, hoping for a different experience. The hostess greeted her with a cursory glance and a tight-lipped smile. "Do you have a reservation?" she asked, her tone brisk. "No, I was hoping to get a table for one," Evelyn replied. The hostess glanced at her attire, then looked back at her reservation book. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked," she said, her voice devoid of warmth. Evelyn's eyes scanned the dining area. Several tables were visibly empty, set and ready for guests. "Are you sure?" Evelyn asked, gesturing toward the vacant tables. "They're reserved," the hostess replied curtly, her posture stiff. "Perhaps you could try another restaurant nearby." Feeling a mix of frustration and sadness, Evelyn left the restaurant and wandered toward the lounge. She sank into a plush chair near the large windows, her mind racing. How could this be happening in her hotel? Was her staff trained to prioritize appearances over genuine hospitality? Moments later, two security guards approached her. "Ma'am, we've received reports of a disturbance," one of them said, his tone professional but firm. "Management has asked that you leave the premises." Evelyn's eyes widened in disbelief. "A disturbance? I haven't done anything but sit here," she said, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. "We're just following orders," the guard replied. Humiliated but determined, Evelyn stood and walked toward the exit. She knew now that her visit wasn't just about observing service. It had become a personal mission to uncover the truth and reclaim the values she had built her hotel on. Have you ever been judged unfairly based on appearance? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories like Evelyn's, don't forget to like and subscribe. Evelyn Carter sat in the lobby of the Grand Horizon Hotel, observing the ebb and flow of activity around her. She had hoped her earlier experience at the reception desk was an isolated incident, a fluke in an otherwise well-run establishment. But as she watched her staff interact with guests, disappointment seeped deeper into her heart. A sharply dressed couple approached the front desk. Evelyn recognized the receptionist who had dismissed her earlier. His demeanor transformed as he greeted the couple with a warm smile and enthusiastic nod. He offered them an upgrade, complimenting their choice of accommodations. Moments later, Evelyn saw a casually dressed man approach the desk. The receptionist barely acknowledged him, providing curt responses and no pleasantries. The difference was stark, undeniable, and heartbreaking. Why does this keep happening? Evelyn wondered, frustration bubbling beneath her calm exterior. She had envisioned the Grand Horizon as a sanctuary for all, a place where every guest felt welcomed and valued. Yet, here was evidence of the very opposite. Evelyn decided to explore further. She wandered into the hotel's spa, a signature feature she had invested heavily in to create an oasis of relaxation for her guests. She approached the receptionist at the spa counter with a polite inquiry. "Good afternoon. Do you have any availability for a massage today?" The receptionist's smile faltered as she glanced at Evelyn's casual attire. "I'm sorry, we're fully booked," she replied, her tone polite but distant. Evelyn lingered near the counter for a moment, watching as a woman in designer attire walked in. The same receptionist suddenly brightened, offering the woman an appointment without hesitation. Evelyn's chest tightened. It can't just be coincidence, she thought, taking note of the stark contrast in how the staff treated guests based on appearance. Her next stop was the pool area. She observed the attendants, their welcoming smiles reserved for guests who carried an air of wealth and privilege. When Evelyn asked for a towel, the attendant responded with visible irritation, as though her request was a burden. By the time evening rolled around, Evelyn was physically and emotionally drained. She settled into a quiet corner of the lobby, attempting to collect her thoughts. Have I failed my own vision? She wondered. The Grand Horizon was supposed to embody inclusivity and excellence, but what she had seen today painted a different picture. Her reflections were interrupted by the sight of two uniformed security guards approaching her. "Ma'am, we've received reports of a disturbance," one said, his voice stiff and professional. "Management has asked that you leave the premises." Evelyn's heart sank. "A disturbance? I've been sitting here quietly," she replied, her tone steady despite her disbelief. The guard's expression didn't soften. "We're just following orders," he said firmly. Humiliated and stunned, Evelyn rose from her seat. Her steps were measured as she made her way to the door, but inside, her emotions churned. How had her staff come to this? The culture she had painstakingly built was nowhere to be found. She exited into the cool evening air, determined to uncover the root of the problem. That night, Evelyn sat in her home office, poring over years of guest feedback and complaint logs. Her assistant, Martha, joined her, bringing fresh coffee and a notebook filled with notes. Together, they began to connect the dots. "Here's one," Martha said, reading aloud from a guest complaint. "Denied entry to the restaurant despite having a reservation. Hostess claimed they were fully booked, but I saw several empty tables." Evelyn's stomach turned. "That's exactly what happened to me today," she said. Another log caught her attention. "Staff ignored my request for assistance. I felt invisible compared to other guests." The patterns were unmistakable. Casual or modestly dressed guests were being treated as less important. Evelyn's heart ached at the realization. This wasn't a one-time occurrence. It was a systemic problem, one that had taken root right under her nose. Martha hesitated before speaking. "Do you think this is happening because of management? Someone must be setting the tone for this behavior." Evelyn nodded grimly. "If that's the case, I need to find out who and why. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about every guest who's felt unwelcome in my hotel." As the night wore on, Evelyn crafted a plan. She would go undercover again, but this time, with a sharper focus and clearer objectives. She needed to dig deeper, speak to staff, and uncover the root cause of the toxic culture that had begun to fester in her establishment. The next morning, Evelyn stood before the mirror, dressed once again in modest attire. But this time, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This isn't the end, she thought. gripping her notebook tightly. It's just the beginning of making things right. Have you ever faced a situation that challenged your beliefs about fairness and equality? Share your story below. And if Evelyn's journey inspires you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of justice and redemption. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains of Evelyn Carter's study as she prepared for a pivotal day. Sitting across from her was her assistant, Martha, who had spent the better part of the night helping Evelyn review years of guest complaints and feedback. The patterns they uncovered were both eye-opening and deeply unsettling. Time and time again, guests who didn't fit the luxury image of the Grand Horizon Hotel reported instances of dismissive or outright rude behavior from staff. Here's another one, Martha said, highlighting a complaint in their growing pile. Turned away from the restaurant despite having a reservation. Hostess claimed the tables were all booked, but I saw several empty spots. Evelyn's jaw tightened as she read the comment. That's exactly what happened to me yesterday, she said, her voice tinged with frustration. I'm starting to see a very clear trend. Another log caught her eye. The staff ignored my requests for assistance. I felt invisible compared to other guests. Evelyn's heart sank. This wasn't just bad service. It was a systemic issue rooted in prejudice and favoritism. Her hotel, which she had built to be a beacon of inclusivity and hospitality, had strayed far from her vision. Determined to dig deeper, Evelyn decided to take a more direct approach. She tasked Martha with discreetly interviewing staff members who might be willing to shed light on the issue. Initially, most employees were hesitant to speak, their fear of reprisal palpable. But eventually, a longtime housekeeper named Alice agreed to talk. Her hands fidgeted nervously as she sat across from Evelyn and Martha in the quiet study. Thank you for speaking with me, Alice, Evelyn began, her tone warm and reassuring. I'm not here to punish anyone. I just want to understand what's been happening. Alice hesitated, then took a deep breath. It's Mr. Hendricks, she said, referring to the senior manager of guest relations. He sets the tone for how we treat guests. He's always saying we should focus on high-value guests. He doesn't come right out and say it, but we all know what he means. He wants us to cater to the wealthy and push everyone else aside. Evelyn's heart sank. Mr. Hendricks had been with the hotel since its inception. She had trusted him implicitly, believing he shared her vision for inclusivity and excellence. Has he given specific instructions? Evelyn asked carefully. Alice shook her head. Not exactly. He's smart about it. He'll make comments during meetings, things like, let's focus our energy on guests who elevate the brand. But the message is clear. If someone doesn't look the part, we're supposed to prioritize elsewhere. Evelyn exchanged a glance with Martha, who scribbled notes furiously. This wasn't just a case of poor individual behavior. It was a culture that had been cultivated under her nose. Thank you for your honesty, Alice, Evelyn said, her tone firm yet compassionate. You've given me a lot to think about. As Alice left, Evelyn turned to Martha. This goes deeper than I thought. We need more than just guest complaints to tackle this. If Hendricks is at the center of this, we'll need solid evidence to hold him accountable. Martha nodded. I'll dig into his management history. Let's see if there's a paper trail. The next step in their investigation revealed something even more troubling. As Martha sifted through financial records, she discovered a series of discrepancies in the hotel's budget. Funds had been funneled into an unregistered account over several years. The amounts were small enough to avoid immediate suspicion, but, when added up, totaled a significant sum. Further tracing revealed that the account was linked to none other than Mr. Hendricks himself. Evelyn's sadness turned to resolve. This wasn't just about poor guest service anymore. It was corruption at the highest level. Hendricks had not only fostered a toxic culture, but also stolen from the business she had poured her life into. Armed with this information, Evelyn formulated a plan. She decided to confront Hendricks directly, but knew she couldn't do it alone. She reached out to Richard Allen, a longtime board member and trusted confidant who had supported her vision from the beginning. Together, they agreed to call an emergency meeting. The meeting took place in the hotel's grand boardroom, a space Evelyn usually associated with pride and accomplishment. Today, however, the air was heavy with tension. Hendricks entered confidently, unaware of what awaited him. Good morning, he said smoothly, his usual air of authority evident. What's this meeting about? Evelyn met his gaze steadily. Hendricks, I've been reviewing the operations and culture of this hotel. What I've uncovered is deeply troubling. Hendricks' brow furrowed. Troubling? I don't understand. Evelyn opened a folder filled with evidence, guest complaints, staff testimonies, and financial records. She slid it across the table to him. These are reports from guests who've been mistreated, ignored, or turned away because they didn't fit a certain image. And these, she pointed to the financial documents, are records of funds that have been siphoned from the hotel into a private account. Your account? Hendricks' confidence faltered. His hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. This is a mistake, he stammered. I've always acted in the hotel's best interests. Richard Allen, who had been silent until now, spoke up. These documents say otherwise, Hendricks. This behavior is unacceptable and a betrayal of everything this hotel stands for. Evelyn's voice was firm. You've undermined our values, mistreated our guests, and stolen from this establishment. Effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties. Legal action will follow. Hendricks stared at her, stunned. He opened his mouth to protest but thought better of it. Security escorted him from the room, his once commanding presence reduced to a shadow. As the door closed behind him, Evelyn turned to Richard. This is just the beginning. We need to rebuild the culture of this hotel from the ground up. No guest should ever feel unwelcome here again. Richard nodded. You have my full support. Let's make this right. In the days that followed, Evelyn worked tirelessly to implement sweeping changes. She introduced new training programs focused on inclusivity and respect. Anonymous feedback channels allowed employees to report issues without fear of retaliation. Evelyn also personally met with staff to reinforce the hotel's core values. Guests began to notice the difference almost immediately. Reviews praised the welcoming atmosphere and attentive service. The Grand Horizon Hotel slowly regained its reputation as a place of excellence and inclusivity. Evelyn's journey had been painful, but it reaffirmed her commitment to her vision. She had faced the uncomfortable truths, rooted out corruption, and set her hotel on a path toward a brighter, more equitable future. Have you ever uncovered something you didn't expect in your own life or work? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of resilience and redemption. Evelyn Carter entered the Grand Horizon Hotel's expansive boardroom with a determined air. She had spent countless hours gathering evidence, speaking with staff, and unraveling the layers of misconduct that had tainted her beloved establishment. Today was the day to confront the root of the problem. Mr. Hendricks, the senior manager of guest relations. Around the large oak table sat the hotel's board members, including Richard Allen, a steadfast supporter of Evelyn's vision, and her assistant, Martha, who had been instrumental in compiling the evidence. Mr. Hendricks arrived last, his usual air of confidence intact as he took a seat. Good morning, Hendricks said smoothly, glancing around the room. I assume this meeting is about operations? I'm always happy to offer my expertise. Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. This meeting is about accountability, Mr. Hendricks, she began, her tone calm but resolute. Over the past several weeks, I have conducted a thorough investigation into the culture and practices of this hotel. What I've uncovered is deeply troubling. A flicker of unease crossed Hendricks' face, but he quickly masked it with a faint smile. Troubling? I'm not sure I follow. Evelyn opened the folder in front of her and began distributing copies of the evidence. These are guest complaints documenting instances of dismissive or discriminatory treatment, she said, sliding the first set of papers across the table. In one case, a single mother was denied entry to the restaurant despite having a reservation. In another, a guest was ignored repeatedly by staff. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a pattern. Hendricks' brow furrowed. With all due respect, guests can be particular. We deal with hundreds of visitors weekly, and it's impossible to satisfy everyone. Evelyn's voice sharpened. This isn't about minor dissatisfaction. It's about a culture of exclusion and elitism that you have fostered. Staff members have confirmed that you instructed them to prioritize high-value guests while subtly discouraging service to those who don't fit your image of luxury. Hendricks shifted in his chair, his usual poise faltering. That's a gross misinterpretation, he said. My goal has always been to uphold the hotel's reputation. Richard Allen leaned forward, his expression stern. And what about these? He asked, gesturing to another stack of documents Evelyn had provided. These financial records show discrepancies in the hotel's budget. Funds were siphoned into an unregistered account over several years, and that account is linked directly to you. Hendricks paled. There must be some mistake, he stammered. I would never. Evelyn cut him off. Spare us the denials, Mr. Hendricks. The evidence is irrefutable. You've not only betrayed our guests and staff, but also stolen from the very institution you were entrusted to serve. The room fell silent. Hendricks glanced around, seeking an ally, but found none. The weight of the accusations, supported by undeniable proof, left him defenseless. Effective immediately, Evelyn continued, her tone resolute. You are relieved of your duties. Legal proceedings will follow. Security personnel entered the room, waiting to escort Hendricks out. He rose shakily, his confidence shattered. As he walked toward the door, he cast a final, bitter glance at Evelyn. You'll regret this, he muttered. Evelyn didn't flinch. The only regret I have is not acting sooner. When the door closed behind him, she turned to the board. This is a wake-up call for all of us. The culture of this hotel has strayed far from the values it was built on. We need to rebuild from the ground up. Richard Allen nodded. You have my full support, Evelyn. Let's make this right. The days that followed were some of the busiest of Evelyn's career. She began by implementing immediate reforms to address the systemic issues that had been uncovered. First, she introduced mandatory training programs focused on inclusivity and respect. Every staff member, from receptionists to senior management, attended these sessions, which emphasized the importance of treating all guests with dignity regardless of their appearance or background. Evelyn also established an anonymous feedback system, allowing employees to report concerns without fear of retaliation. She wanted to create an environment where staff felt empowered to speak up about unethical practices or mistreatment. In addition, she restructured the management team. Richard Allen and the board supported her decision to promote individuals who had demonstrated a commitment to the hotel's core values. New policies were introduced to ensure transparency and accountability in financial operations, preventing future misconduct. To reinforce these changes, Evelyn held weekly meetings with staff. She personally shared her vision for the Grand Horizon Hotel and invited employees to contribute their ideas for improvement. This collaborative approach fostered a renewed sense of pride and unity among the team. As the internal reforms took shape, Evelyn turned her attention to the guest experience. She reviewed every touchpoint of the customer journey, from check-in to dining to housekeeping, ensuring that the hotel's values were reflected in every interaction. One of her first initiatives was to invite past guests who had lodged complaints to return for a complimentary stay. Evelyn wanted to show them firsthand that the Grand Horizon Hotel had changed. Your feedback has helped us grow, she wrote in personalized letters to each guest. We'd love the chance to welcome you back and provide the experience you deserve. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Many guests accepted the invitation, and their feedback confirmed that the changes were making a tangible difference. Reviews began to highlight the hotel's warm and attentive service, with one guest writing, "It feels like a completely different place." In the best way possible. Months later, Evelyn stood in the lobby of the Grand Horizon Hotel, watching as guests of all backgrounds moved through the space. The staff greeted everyone with genuine smiles, their enthusiasm and professionalism evident in every interaction. The atmosphere was one of inclusivity and warmth, just as Evelyn had always envisioned. Richard Allen approached her, a satisfied smile on his face. "You've done it, Evelyn," he said. "The Grand Horizon is finally living up to its name." Evelyn nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "This is just the beginning," she replied. "We'll keep improving, one day at a time." As she watched a young family check in, their laughter filling the air, Evelyn felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had been difficult, but it had reaffirmed her commitment to creating a space where everyone felt valued. The Grand Horizon Hotel was no longer just a building. It was a symbol of resilience, integrity, and the power of change. Have you ever witnessed or been part of a transformative change? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of redemption and perseverance. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn Carter embarked on a mission to rebuild the Grand Horizon Hotel from its foundation, not with bricks and mortar, but with values and integrity. The sweeping reforms she introduced began with mandatory inclusivity training for all staff members. From the reception desk to senior management, everyone attended sessions focused on respect, empathy, and creating an environment where every guest felt valued and welcome. Inclusivity and fairness aren't optional, Evelyn emphasized during the first session. They are the pillars of this hotel's legacy moving forward. To ensure these values took root, Evelyn established an anonymous feedback system. This gave employees a safe space to report any concerns or unethical practices without fear of retaliation. "Your voices matter," she told her staff. "We can only grow stronger if we address issues openly and honestly." Evelyn also tackled hiring practices, implementing policies that prioritize diversity and inclusion. By broadening the range of perspectives and backgrounds among the staff, she ensured the hotel would better reflect the community it served. Regular team meetings became a staple, during which Evelyn personally reinforced the hotel's core values: hospitality, equality, and excellence. The effects of these changes were almost immediate. Guests began to notice the difference. Reviews poured in praising the warm, attentive service and the welcoming atmosphere that had been missing for so long. "From the moment I walked through the doors, I felt genuinely cared for," one guest wrote. Another added, "The staff treated me like family." It's clear they've worked hard to create something special. To further demonstrate the hotel's transformation, Evelyn reached out to former guests who had lodged complaints. In heartfelt letters, she invited them back for a complimentary stay, encouraging them to experience the positive changes firsthand. "Your feedback was vital in helping us improve," she wrote. "We'd be honored to welcome you back and show you how far we've come." The invitations were met with gratitude, and many guests returned, delighted to find that the Grand Horizon now lived up to its name. Evelyn's personal involvement, from training sessions to guest interactions, solidified her commitment to the hotel's renaissance. By the end of the month, the Grand Horizon had not only regained its stellar reputation, but also become a symbol of fairness and inclusivity. The changes inspired staff and guests alike, transforming the hotel into a place where people from all walks of life felt genuinely valued. Standing in the bustling lobby one evening, Evelyn watched as a diverse array of guests mingled with smiles and laughter. She felt a surge of pride, knowing that her vision had been restored. The journey had been challenging, but the rewards were undeniable. "This is just the beginning," Evelyn said to her assistant, Martha, as they looked out over the lively scene. "We're not just running a hotel, we're setting a standard." The Grand Horizon Hotel had become more than a luxury destination. It was a beacon of hope, integrity, and progress. What inspires you to push for change? Share your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of transformation and perseverance. Months later, Evelyn Carter stood at the edge of the Grand Horizon Hotel's lobby, her eyes sweeping over the bustling scene before her. Unlike her undercover visit months ago, this time, Evelyn was here as the acknowledged owner of the hotel. The atmosphere was vibrant yet calm, filled with the chatter of satisfied guests and the soothing notes of a live piano performance in the corner. She took a deep breath, her heart swelling with pride. Guests of all backgrounds were greeted with the same genuine smiles and warm hospitality. The changes she had implemented were no longer just policies on paper. They had become a living, breathing part of the hotel's culture. Every interaction reflected the values she had worked so hard to instill: inclusivity, respect, and a commitment to excellence. As she watched the staff move effortlessly between guests, Evelyn's mind wandered back to her undercover experience. The pain of being dismissed and judged in her own establishment had been difficult to bear, but it was a necessary awakening. A reminder that no matter how carefully she had built the foundation of the Grand Horizon, complacency had allowed cracks to form. She had faced those flaws head-on, and the results were now on full display. Evelyn's thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. "Evelyn, you're glowing," said Richard Allen, a longtime board member and one of her staunchest allies throughout the hotel's transformation. He approached her with a warm smile, holding a glass of champagne. It's hard not to feel proud today, Evelyn replied, accepting the glass he offered. The Grand Horizon finally feels like what I always dreamed it would be. Richard nodded, gesturing to the diverse crowd of guests enjoying the hotel's amenities. You've done something remarkable here. This isn't just a hotel anymore. It's a symbol of what businesses can achieve when they prioritize people over appearances. Evelyn smiled. It wasn't easy, but seeing this, she motioned toward a young couple laughing with a server and an elderly man being helped by a concierge. It makes every challenge worthwhile. Evelyn's day was filled with conversations, each one reaffirming the positive impact of the changes she had made. In the lounge, she struck up a conversation with a single mother who had returned after receiving one of Evelyn's personalized invitations. I'll be honest, the woman began, a slight hesitation in her voice. After my first visit, I didn't think I'd ever come back. But this time, it's like a completely different hotel. Everyone's been so kind and attentive. I felt genuinely welcomed from the moment I arrived. That's wonderful to hear, Evelyn replied, her smile genuine. Your feedback played a big role in helping us improve. Thank you for giving us another chance. Nearby, a group of international tourists chatted animatedly with a staff member who was fluent in their language. Evelyn watched as the concierge offered them local dining recommendations, going above and beyond to make them feel at home. Moments like this reminded her of why she had started this journey in the first place. The transformation of the Grand Horizon Hotel didn't go unnoticed. Articles in local and national publications praised Evelyn's efforts, highlighting the hotel as a case study in ethical leadership and the power of inclusivity. One headline read, "From Controversy to Triumph." How one hotel became a beacon of change. Evelyn was invited to speak at conferences and community events, where she shared her journey and the lessons she had learned. Her message resonated with audiences. Change starts with acknowledging uncomfortable truths. It's about having the courage to confront what isn't working and the determination to make it right. She also partnered with local organizations to support initiatives promoting diversity and equity in the hospitality industry. By sharing the Grand Horizon story, Evelyn hoped to inspire other businesses to prioritize inclusivity and fairness. Despite the accolades, Evelyn knew her work wasn't done. The hospitality industry was ever-changing, and maintaining the Grand Horizon's newfound reputation required constant vigilance. One of her next initiatives was to implement regular guest and staff surveys to ensure accountability. Evelyn wanted to hear directly from those who interacted with the hotel daily, using their feedback to guide ongoing improvements. She also began mentoring young professionals in the industry, sharing her experiences and encouraging them to pursue leadership roles. Evelyn believed that cultivating the next generation of leaders was essential to creating lasting change. As the sun set that evening, Evelyn found herself standing on the rooftop terrace, overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, a sea of lights stretching into the horizon. It was a moment of quiet reflection amid the day's celebrations. Martha joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You did it," she said, handing Evelyn a cup. "The Grand Horizon is thriving again, and it's all because of your vision." Evelyn took a sip, savoring the warmth. "It's not just my vision," she said. "It's ours. You, the staff, the guests who gave us a second chance. We all made this happen." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, the city's hum a comforting backdrop. "What's next for you?" Martha asked. Evelyn smiled thoughtfully. "I think it's time to take what we've done here and help others do the same. There are so many businesses that could benefit from what we've learned. Maybe that's the next chapter." As the night unfolded, Evelyn walked back through the lobby one last time. The vibrant energy, the happy faces of guests and staff alike, filled her with a sense of fulfillment. She had set out to create a hotel that was more than just a luxurious destination. The Grand Horizon was now a place where everyone belonged, a space defined by its values rather than its opulence. Evelyn paused near the entrance, watching as a young family checked in. The receptionist's warm smile and cheerful demeanor reminded her of how far they had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every challenge, every late night, and every difficult decision. "This is the legacy I always wanted," Evelyn thought. "Not just for me, but for everyone who walks through these doors." As she stepped outside into the crisp evening air, Evelyn felt a profound sense of peace. The Grand Horizon Hotel had become everything she had dreamed of and more. A true reflection of the power of perseverance, integrity, and the belief that everyone deserves to be treated with respect. What did you think of Evelyn's journey? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and empower.